Warning: the views and beliefs in the following program does not reflect the views of Boom Broadcasting. We give full creative control to our creators and do not believe in cancel culture. Viewer discretion is advised. Hey there, I'm Michael Davis. I'm obviously behind the mic today, and you know how this goes. It's not about sports, it's not about wrestling, it's about life. And on these shows, we've talked about some really hard, difficult things, and we're actually on our 10th episode. So I haven't pulled my hair out quite yet. It is still there, it's just pulled back. Well, today I wanted to talk about something, but I'm going to do a swerve. I'm going to pull an audible because of an opportunity I had this past week and wanted to share my experience with that. And I got to start with how I actually landed that opportunity. Well, it's no secret. I do podcasts. You're listening to this one right now. I do so many throughout the week, and I just do it for enjoyment. I do it because I love it. I love what I'm talking about. I'm passionate about what I'm talking about. And at the end of the day, I'm having fun. Well, I get a text from my boss at the co-working facility, and she texts me on Friday, which I'm off on Fridays. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay. Because she texts me, she's like, "Hey, this person called looking for you." And I couldn't help her because she wanted to talk to you. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. She told me the name. And I'm like, I have no idea who that is. I have no idea what could be discussed or how I could be helping her rather than my boss be helping her. I was like, that's weird. And so we go throughout the weekend. I end up going to a Duke game and, celebrate the weekend, hang out with my dad, hang out with my family. Well, Monday morning comes around and I'm barely getting my stuff in order. And about 8:15, I get a call and Olivia's like, "You want to get that?" I'm like, "Sure." Well, I pick up the phone and she's looking for Michael Davis. I'm like, "Well, you're talking to him." And then she gives me an opportunity that I was just completely blindsided by and accepted almost immediately once I got approval that I could do this. Well, what I was able to do was she was calling about her class, and her class throughout the day was, I can't remember the grade, but they had to do a podcast about their short story. And she's like, "I really want to judge. I really want somebody who has podcasting experience. Would you be willing to come and be a judge for our competition?" And I was blown away. I was ecstatic. I was like, "Are you for real? Like, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool." Um, for 2 reasons. 1, why are you picking me? And 2, I would have loved a teacher like that who makes things fun. So I kinda wanna make that part of this episode a little bit too later on. But I jumped on it. I was like, "Absolutely, I would love to do it. Where are we doing it?" And she's like, "In 2 days." I'm like, "Bet, I got you." Obviously got it approved that I could go, and I had a great time. I ended up dressing in a nice suit. Uh, I went the full 9 yards, but my experience there, getting there and, getting to, meet some of the kids and everything, I'll be honest, my experience as just a student in general and places I've been, people put minimum to no effort into their projects. I'm being one of them. But that was not my experience when judging this podcast competition that these kids did. It really wasn't. And I kid you not, I was blown away because when I agreed to do it, I'm like, okay, like I've been part of this before. I used to work with kids. I was in school myself. So I know how these like competitions go. It's like, but then I'm like, I'm starting to listen to them and the kids would explain like a minute or two, like what the short story was about. Because let's be honest, I don't have time to read slash don't love reading, but they kind of cued me in on what the short story was about, and then how they tied it into their podcast. And they would play their podcasts around 7 to 15 minutes was their time allotted. And I was laughing. I was having a great time. It was an absolute blast. I got to do it for 3 periods, and they were in groups of, anywhere from, like, 3. I think the largest group was 5, potentially, in one of the larger classes, and I was just I was blown away. I was really impressed by the amount of work and the amount of effort they did, and I think they only had 2 to 3 days to actually get the podcasts created. And they didn't just do like what I'm doing here, where I have a graphic in the background, I have the disclaimer in the front, and I'm talking behind a mic. No, they went the whole 9 yards. They did their own sound effects, they created their own intro music, video, like, they went above and beyond what I would have expected from that project. And I felt a little bad too, because that first class, I was listening, and I'm like, "Wait, I kinda did something similar at App when I'm doing broadcast in school." As a guy who wanted to do this as a career and do this full time, and I'm looking back at that project I made, I'm like, "Guys, I am embarrassed because I didn't put that much effort into that project." I ended up getting a C or whatever, but I was like, "Man, I wish I had that amount of drive, that amount of energy to talk and create something that it was a short story." Like, I'm sure if you had given those kids the opportunity to talk about something they were really passionate about, then they would've, you know then yeah, the expectation would have been up here. But the fact that they did it for a short story that I'm assuming, and some kids even said that story itself was boring, but I could tell through their voice, I could tell through their body language, I could tell they actually had fun creating a podcast that, you know, other teachers don't do that. Other teachers don't allow that. And so I was really, really proud and really ecstatic, and I thought it was the best way to spend my day. Now, that was my experience. I absolutely loved it. Very, very thankful for the teacher who brought me in and allowed me to, have that opportunity, because it really helped put things in perspective. And I feel like, and this is what I really want to talk about, I feel like she handled education in the way that you need to handle education. I am an advocate for people doing what they're passionate about. I am an advocate for making things fun, enjoyable, entertaining. And what I'm not an advocate for, and this is no slight on anybody personally, let me just go ahead and say that. There was a disclaimer at the front. So do not do not take that in this way. But I remember being in school, and you would your routine would be get up at 6:30 to catch the bus, or you're getting drove to school. You're there, you have to be there before 7:30 if you want to get breakfast. Your classes start 7:45, 8 o'clock, and then you're there until 3:30, and then, oh, wait, you gotta wait for your parents to get off, so you're either in after school program, or you go day care, or you're on the bus, and you're not really getting home until 5:30 usually. And then you're like, "Man, I need to eat." So I'm eating, and get done with that. But then you're like, "Wait, I have homework from this class, and this class, and this class, and this class. And this is a class I really struggle with. And so it's going to take me a lot longer than maybe this class." And before you know it, it's 9:30. you need to shower, you need to get ready for the next day, and you have wasted, and I'm using the word wasted on purpose, you have wasted your entire day. You have. There is when I was in school, and it may be like this now still in some places, there was no balance between school and home. And like a lot of people try to say, like, there needs to be a work life balance, which I totally agree with. There needs to be the same thing for our youth and for our kids. Okay, I'm not wanting to get political. I'm not wanting to, ruffle any feathers, but there's so much potential when it comes to our school system that we just squander it because it's mandated or whatever that they need homework because you couldn't, give them the progress they needed in the hour 15 class periods or even the entire day if you have them the entire day. And I'm just like, if you handed me X amount of pages of homework that needed to be done within a day or two, and I had spent the entire day with you, um, and I'm having to do this on my own free time when I get home from school, hoping to unwind, hoping to be a kid, you're not going to get my best, and you didn't. I'm just gonna be honest, you didn't, because at some point, you just kill the kid in the kid, and that's not okay. That is, I think, the unintentional approach education has had because there were so many times and then this develops into kids being like, "Oh, I forgot my homework. Oh, was the homework due today?" Oh, like and then you're just promoting lying because the kids don't wanna admit that when they got home from school, they didn't wanna do more school. Just saying. Now, this isn't a sly on teachers because the teachers do the best they can within their school system and within their school structure. I'm saying the school system and the school structure could be a lot more geared towards the kids' development versus just benchmarks on, EOGs or whatever, and, trying to drill kids with information that they may or may not be interested in, they may or may not be passionate about, but they may or may not use 5 years down the road. That's just my personal take. And the reason I bring all this up is I saw something that is a great alternative, meet somewhere in the middle, and that was the podcast competition that I experienced this past week. Now, not everybody is going to want to do a podcast. Not everybody's going to want to record a podcast. But things were accomplished. Every group turned something in, and every group blew me out of the water as somebody who graduated with that degree. But I remember, in comparison, having to read a short story and then having to take a quiz. And for somebody who gets really anxious about tests or quizzes or having the wrong answer or just your mind blanking as you stare at a sheet and then you flip and see how many questions he or she actually added to the quiz or the test, and you just get really overwhelmed. And then you forget what the book was, what you read, all the whole 9 yards because of everything else you're juggling too, because that's not your only class. I want people to remember that. That is not you. If you were a teacher, and again, this is no personal slight, this is no personal attack. If you were a teacher, I want you to realize your class is not a kids only class. And I feel like that's the problem with assigning homework outside of the school hours. Now, if there's something that needs to get done, or, something that you could easily accomplish in 5 minutes, I'm totally okay with that. I'm not okay with the outrageous amounts of homework that could have been done during that class period. But there this I'm super passionate about it because we're like, it's absolutely wild to me that we've missed the boat with our education for so long. But when it comes to giving a kid homework, you gotta realize you're not that kid's only class. They had 4 or 5 other classes, and if all those 5 classes gave them homework for that evening to turn in by tomorrow, then guess what's happening? Well, if 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 the homework is loaded to where it's 30 minutes to an hour dedication to it, then you're taking, you know, 2.5 to 5 hours of that kid's time once they get home from school to and they have no brain break. But with the short stories, with the podcasts, quizzes just didn't work for me, and I would blank. But what the podcast competition did was they had to turn the short story into a podcast, and they had full creativity around it. Some of them did an analysis roundtable, some of them did reenactment, dramatization of what the story was, so on and so forth. Some did like interviews with one of the characters. But here's my thing: you couldn't do that project if you didn't read the short story and you didn't absorb what the short story was about, meaning you learned something, meaning you did the assignment, you did what the teacher wanted you to do at the end of the day was, yeah, read the story, and 2, you learned and you took something from it. And you third, applied it to something else. So, the fact that you did the assignment, you learned you learned the assignment, and then you were able to apply it to something else in life. I mean, this was a home run. No, this was a grand slam. This was a grand slam by this teacher, and I just absolutely love that. I love that because there I saw kids enjoying education. I saw kids enjoying and being proud of what they did. So, like, I had an opportunity after each project to ask a question. Sometimes I'd ask something funny like, "Did you get paid for that sponsor ad?" or, something of that nature. But other times I'd be like, "Hey, why'd you take this approach?" And the fact that they were able to be like, "Hey, we thought about it and this was the best approach because XYZ, or this is how we think we could have had the most fun." And I'm like, "Did you?" And they're like, "Yeah." I have no doubt that this was a home run assignment, whether or not you bring me in, which I will gladly, if you're watching this, I will gladly come back anytime you'd have me. Let's work it out. But I was just I came away encouraged because at that point education is in good hands, and you can tell, like, you can genuinely tell. So if you do have that teacher and you ended up following Boom Broadcasting, like, first of all, thank you. That means a lot. But just know, and I hope I communicated this earlier this week, you have a good teacher. And I really I really want education to become something like that, to where the teacher cares. She's not going to be there to, you know, just ruin your life, but hey, let's learn the material. Let's have fun. Let's make sure the kids actually learn something versus just absolutely overloading them and doing more harm than good. And I had some really great teachers, in my past time. I would just feel horrible if I started listing some and I miss one or two. But it education's so important, and we just missed the boat. And this teacher did not miss the boat this week. And I'm okay with assigning something outside of class time. Don't get it twisted, but it needs to have a real purpose. Kids can tell when it's just busy work or you're trying to just meet a quota or whatever. Um, and if it's something like a project, like they have to create and use their creativity with, that shows they learn the material, that's usually the best route to go because you can really tell versus a paper test or a paper quiz or online tests. I'm not going to get into that. That they actually absorb the material and you made an impact on them. So kudos to the teachers. I know you guys, some of you, depend on where in the world you're watching this, some of you have your hands tied. And I understand that. And it wasn't an attack on you. It wasn't an attack on anybody personally. Like I've said that 3 or 4 times, but this podcast is not meant to be that. So if you take it that way, I'm sorry, but there's a disclaimer at the beginning, and we might lose a subscriber too. I don't care. No, but in all seriousness, like I know some of you have your hands tied, but going that extra mile. The kids remember that and realize that. And I would just encourage our entire system in general to be fixed. And it's nobody personal fault. It's years and years and years of just losing the purpose. And I always went back to this central moment before we close. When I used to work at camp, they asked what their why was. Like why are you here? Why are you doing this? Why are you wanting to do this? Why are you going here? Like just why. And if you center yourself on your why and remind yourself of your why, then hopefully you'll be able to shape everything else through those lens of your why. But if your why has, turned into something to where you're like, maybe I'm not the best person here, then maybe reevaluate. And that goes for anything in life. Um, I've had to reevaluate my why in a few times, and I can honestly say I am really, really happy and really thankful for where I'm at in life. So I appreciate you guys sticking with me on my rant on education. Shout out to that teacher who just did phenomenal work. And yeah, that's been the man behind the mic. And we'll be back next week with more material. Appreciate you guys. This isn't to promote Boom Broadcaster or any of my other shows, but if you'd love to support the rest of the team, that would be awesome. So uh, if you have time, go send them a like, go send them a comment on any of their videos. I'd really appreciate it because they put a lot of hard work into it. So thank you guys. Wouldn't be here, wouldn't have had that opportunity to work with the high school without you guys and without your support and without you helping build Boom Broadcasting. And it's been fantastic, and I can't wait to see what's next. But until then, this has been the man behind the mic.